Hi family, Nuggets of Faith family. Today I'm starting off my video in such a random position. I had not even planned on recording, but there's something that has just been beckoning in my spirit, and I was just asking myself, why haven't I ever shared about this? And it's such a personal encounter that I had at a very tender age. And when I usually remember that encounter with God, it always makes me my perspective of God to be put back in check again. And I think God knew growing up. Before I even share what the encounter was, I think God knew growing up I would battle. I'd have so much emotional battles and mental battles. And so this encounter that I had, anytime I remember it, it always brings me to tears. I think I was like 4 years, 4.5 or 5, but the encounter is still personal, up to date. It's still so real. And oh God, as a small girl at that time at home, there was so much going on, and I was trying to process a lot as a small girl, and I didn't understand what was happening with my parents, and it was very hard for me. So I remember, I'm a grown woman now. I'm married. I have kids, but that encounter is usually so fresh to me, up to date. Pardon me for even crying. Every time that shows you how real that encounter was, and how God's presence is so tangible. It doesn't matter what He did. Even if it is 10 years ago, even if I had this encounter over 20 years ago, it's actually over 20 years ago, 20 plus years, but it's still so fresh. Every time I tell somebody about it or I bring it up, I just must cry, because God is so real and God is so loving. So I remember at that time, I think as a child I was overcome with so much sadness, and there's this night, God, I think I had I had an encounter with heaven. I was a small girl, a small baby, but I still remember. For me, I woke up and I was telling my parents I had this dream, but now growing up, I see that God allowed me to have a glimpse of heaven. So I remember that time, I think my little heart was so sad, and God just was so merciful to me. And I remember seeing myself in front of a big throne. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. And I saw there was so much glory around this place. There's such a brilliant light. I can't even begin to explain. I could just see hands and the feet, very beautiful feet, and I seemed so small in front of that place. But I'm telling you, the kind of joy that I had, I was laughing. It was an endless joy. It was such a pure happiness. There was no ounce of sadness. I could not even feel any form of sadness. And as I looked at this throne and this man that was sitting on this throne, I could see his feet. I couldn't even see his face. But I felt the love. I just felt the heaviness of the love of God. And I felt it was like a tangible joy, a tangible happiness. I felt this love that I have never encountered to date. This kind of joy. There is no event in my life I've ever had. Even the birthing of my own kids, there is no joy I've ever had like that. There is nothing that can compare the kind of joy that I felt. And I remember fast forward, I think God allowed me to experience this so that anytime I would seem like I'm slipping into depression, he would bring back the image of that encounter I think I was just like looking at the throne and I was in his presence. I was such a young girl. I think I was maybe 4.5 or 5, but I still remember up to date because my baby sister was born when I was 4 years old, and at that time I think she was very tiny. She was a newborn, so it was around about there, and I still remember up to date. So I remember in high school in Form 3, when I got to Form 3, things really got shaky. I remember there's a time I was out of school on and off because of school fees. I'd be chased away, back, forth. So there's a time I really stayed home for some time, and I literally felt my dreams getting crushed. I literally felt myself hopeless, and I was like, at this point, even those who I usually see have so much hope in me don't seem to even believe in me. And I was feeling myself slipping into some kind of sadness it was just like a sadness that has a very strange presence, feeling like there's nothing to look forward to. I don't even want to see another day. It was so bad. And I remember one day God just brought that image. It was brought back into my remembrance, and I wept before God because I was literally depressed. I went through a very heavy episode of depression, and I'm telling you, that encounter, just recalling and God bringing it back to memory, I would cry before God, and I would feel my perspective has changed when I got out in the presence of God, when I was from crying before God. And I just felt I should share this. I've never let it out. In fact, I was sharing this encounter with my sister this year. I don't even know what was silencing me from speaking about this, because there's someone who needs to hear that the joy of the Lord is your strength. And if you're broken hearted, Psalm 34 verse 18 is a very tangible verse. I think God was bringing that verse to life at that time when I was having that encounter, because it says the Lord, he is close to the brokenhearted and he saves those who are crushed in spirit. Have you ever heard of people who die because of a broken heart? They were so heartbroken. Maybe they lost a spouse, and you hear someone died out of having that's deep sadness, and it brings death. But God saves those who are crushed in spirit, and he's able to heal you from depression. He's able to heal you from mental oppression. He's able to heal you from deep stress, and his joy is real. The happiness, the kind of joy that is in heaven, my God, there's nothing that can compare. Nothing, no event, no gift that can ever compare to the joy of the Lord. So I just dropped by to tell somebody, the presence of the Lord is your healing. That's where your healing is. And every time I would feel I'm slipping into depression, one or another, because trust me, there are so many things that have happened in my life that could qualify me to feel like I'm going sane. But God's presence, I will always say that heaven is real, and God's presence is so real, and it heals. And you know what? God saves those who are crushed in spirit. Yes, your spirit can be crushed, trampled upon, and you feel like you have no hope. But I'm just here to encourage you. If my little sad heart at that time as a 5-year-old could be refreshed by the Spirit of God, because as a child growing up, I was not one of those kids who knew how to express themselves very well. I was always a quiet type, just keeping things to myself, keeping quiet. But you see, the Lord sourced me out. He saw my sadness. He saw my heavy feelings in my heart, and he decided in his mercy to give me this encounter. So be encouraged. The joy of the Lord is your strength, and may God come and save you if you are crushed in spirit. That's all I just wanted to share for today. God bless you. I'll see you again whenever I feel the burden to share anything. Bye-bye.